On the 15th of June 2011, with the support of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, the Moscow City Government, the Public Council, under the Ministry of Defense, the first meeting of the International Advisory Council of Organizations of Reserve Officers was held. The council included 18 organizations from 16 countries. Having arrived in Moscow, the delegation members had a look at the exposition of the Central Museum of the Armed Forces and also visited the Central Academical Theatre of the Russian Army. The meeting of the International Advisory Council of Organizations of Reserve Officers was attended by prominent military leaders, representatives of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Defense, the Security Council, the Accounting Chamber, and as well as by the representatives of the State Duma, the Federation Council of the Russian Federation, and governments of Moscow and St. Petersburg. There were involved the following organizations: UNESCO, veterans, youth, charitable and other public non-governmental organizations, diplomatic corps of the countries of Organizations of Reserve Officers, which became part of the International Advisory Council, as well as other countries such as the Federal Republic of Brazil, the Republic of Hungary, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, the Hellenic Republic, the Kingdom of Denmark, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Republic of India, the People's Republic of China, the Republic of Korea, the Republic of Lebanon, Mongolia, the Republic of Poland, the United States of America, as well as Finland, France, the Czech Republic and the Kingdom of Sweden. Long before this significant event took place, the National Association of Unions of the Armed Forces Reserve Officers Megapir had done a lot of work aimed at establishing a mechanism for the international collaboration of reserve officers of different countries. On the 4th of December 2008, with support of the Embassy of the Arab Republic of Egypt in Russia and also with support of the authorities of the Alexandria Library in Egypt, the delegation of the National Association of Reserve Officers Unions of the Armed Forces Megapir held an international scientific practical conference dedicated to studying the lessons and conclusions from the history of the Battle of El Alamein during the Second World War. On the 7th of October 2009, the Megapir Association was visited by the representatives of the Department of the Policy Planning, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the UK, and the Ministry of Defense of the UK. In April 2010, as part of commemorative activities regarding the 65th anniversary of victory over fascism, a business delegation of the National Association of Unions of Reserve Officers of the Armed Forces Megapir visited Austria, Hungary and Slovakia. The Second World War, the 65th anniversary of victory over fascism, Scientific Practical Conference became the main event and was held on the 14th of April in Bratislava. On the 1st of June 2010, extraordinary and plenipotentiary ambassador of the Slovak Republic to Russia, Joseph Migoš, visited the business center of the Megapir Association. The both sides discussed issues of the strengthening of the spiritual historical ties and the issue of the public diplomacy development between Russia and Slovakia. On the 29th of September 2010, at the initiative of the Wall Street Journal, there was held a meeting of the chairman of the board of directors of the Association of Megapir, deputy chairman of the Public Council Alexander Kanchin, under the Ministry of Defense of Russia, with Richard Bordeaux, correspondent of an influential US magazine. Problems of reforms of the Russian army and the civilian control of the process were discussed during the meeting. In October 2010, the 10th Report Electoral Conference of the National Association of the Reserve Officers Unions of the Armed Forces Megapir took place, which decided to expand the international activities of the association. The conference was attended by representatives of a number of the reserve officers from other countries who formed the organizing committee for establishing the International Advisory Council of Reserve Officers. On the 15th of November 2010, the working meeting of the Megapir Association Management with an extraordinary and plenipotentiary ambassador of the Arab Republic of Egypt to Russian Federation was accomplished, and it was agreed to exchange delegation visits of veterans on the 7th anniversary's eve of the Stalingrad battle. On the 18th of November 2010, at the invitation of the Association of Megapir, a delegation of the Club of Generals of the Slovak Republic arrived in Moscow for a working visit. The guests from Bratislava supported the initiative to establish an International Advisory Council of Reserve Officers for interaction of reserve officers from different countries and reaffirmed their readiness to participate in the collaborative work. In December 2010, the Megapir Association delegation accomplished a working visit to Germany. The members of the delegation paid tribute to those who died for the liberation of Europe from fascism and laid flowers at the monument of the liberator soldier in Berlin. They also had a special meeting with the representatives of business circles and public organizations, where the interest of a closer cooperation with organizations of reserve officers and the establishing of working relationships with German colleagues were stated. In Egypt, in January 2011, working meetings of senior statesmen of the country and the Megapir Association management took place. The meetings were held to discuss issues of long-term implementation of joint projects. In February 2011, the Megapir Association delegation made a business visit to Oslo at the invitation of the Norwegian Association of Reserve Officers. During the meeting, there were discussed areas of cooperation on establishing of an international mechanism of interaction between organizations of the reserve officers. On the 18th of March 2011, at the Business Center of the National Association of Unions of Reserve Officers of the Armed Forces Megapir, the meeting of the Organizing Committee for the International Advisory Council of Reserve Officers was held. It was attended by members of the Organizing Committee. As a result of the meeting, the protocol of establishing of the International Advisory Council of Reserve Officers and the concept of its activities were signed. On the 30th of March 2011, during the Megapir Association delegation visit to Italy, the working meetings with Vice President of the Association of Reserve Officers of the Air Forces of Italy was accomplished. The Italian side expressed its interest in the International Advisory Council Foundation and also supported the idea of collaboration of veterans organizations. On the 15th of June 2011, the first meeting of the International Advisory Council of Reserve Officers took place. During the meeting, institutionalization of the Council was completed, working bodies were elected and the common goals and intentions were identified. President of the International Advisory Council was elected. Retired Colonel Alexander Kanshin, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the National Association of Reserve Officers Unions of the Armed Forces Megapir, Deputy Chairman of the Public Council under the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. 3 co-chairmen were also elected: Major General Aitkali Isengulov from the Republic of Kazakhstan, General František Blanarik from the Slovak Republic, Colonel Anatoly Boyko from Ukraine. Also, Anatoly Kumachov was appointed as the Executive Secretary of the Council.
Я хотел бы обратить ваше внимание, уважаемые коллеги, что...
Dear colleagues, I would like to draw your attention to that the main goal of our Council, which is spiritual and intellectual cooperation between organizations of different countries of reserve officers. And we agreed to exclude any political activity and non-interference in the work of organizations in the other countries. Board members are independent and are not supposed to carry out mutual financial obligations. All the issues we deal with should lead to the consensus, and opinions of observers will be considered when making decisions at our Council meetings. I would like also to draw your attention to what we define as the main tasks of the Council, which is the development of humanitarian ties between the reserve officers in different countries, caring for veterans of the armed forces and military service in different countries, cooperation for the mutual enrichment of the military culture and human values, enhancing the interaction of youth organizations which cooperate with our veterans organization. I appeal especially to the members of the Council and to our guests. Of course, I beg to express your views and opinions of the draft documents that were presented to you. We have inspected the work of the respected organization of reserve officers of the Russian Federation, headed by Alexander Kanchin, quite closely. We know him from the joint meetings of the Council of the Coalition of the International Union of Veterans of Retired CIS Veterans. And we have carefully studied the goals and objectives, actually the same goals, which are the protection of legal rights and interests of the officers, and an involvement of intelligence and capacity of the experience of officers in a younger generation education. So, I am asking on behalf of the Presidium of our organization and on behalf of the War Veterans Committee, military service and law enforcement organizations of the Republic of Moldova to be accepted in the International Advisory Council. Who is in favor of the Republic of Moldova veterans organizations to be accepted in our Council? Please vote. Thank you. Unanimously. Congratulations. It's a really special day in the history of relations of reserve officers. These last days in Ukraine have significantly increased the number of organizations of reserve officers. And I think that in the near future, the Advisory Council will summarize the experience of the reserve officers organizations in our countries and will be ready to provide experience of this kind in Ukraine. In the process of establishing and raising this organization, there was one important significant idea. That's why I did support it as an ambassador. That's why this organization has risen. That is why our generals have become active participants of the formation of this International Council. It is above the questions of historical memory. In this organization we should never forget that this is a must to necessarily give tribute to those who fought for peace, those who provided us with a peaceful life in the modern world. And after all, the officers are people who now and in the future set themselves the main goal to bring peace to this world. That's why I am glad I do support as a representative of the state that we have a General Glanarik, Horsky and other examples of initiators of such ideas. And I will support them all the time and I will help. My impression after today's meetings are very good, and I think that this organization brings together all our problems. There are countries in the West and in the Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union countries which have the same problems with the veterans, with reserve officers. I will offer to the chairman of the Union of Soldiers of the Polish Army which measures we should take and what decisions we have to take in order to bring all these great goals which were performed today to reality. We are honored to take part in such an authoritative created International Advisory Committee Board. Our military press, the Belarusian military newspaper, published an article on the activities of Megapir, social organization. And you know, after the publication of this article, we've got plenty of phone calls to our union. Our officers are very interested because Megapir organization, which is now the advisory council, brings benefits. It is very good for people that care about the veterans of the armed forces, their families and younger generation. I am certain about the use of such organizations as Megapir or, for example, North Atlantic Alliance Confederation of Reserve Officers. They are really meaningful for improving the living standards and social security of reserve officers from different countries. We are interested in continuing this work and performing our obligations for the government and our state in this area.
Every year we have dozens of competitions, first of all for young people and also for old people who really try to support their health. And we also support small clubs all over the world, and first of all in Russia. And Megapir was one of the supporters who really helped us to give a new impetus for the development of martial arts and first of all of the patriotic movement in Russia.
Junior Achievement, short name is JA, is a special economic and business education program. This organization has more than 100 branches and filials all over the world. Their program is American, but in Russia there is one of the biggest branch after the United States branch. Megapir Association is one of the member of board of direction of this organization, and the head of the Russian branch or center is academic Belikov. Annually, we prepare for more than 1 million people from this organization and more than 9 million for the 20 years of activity. Megapir, being one of the members of the board of directions, helped to develop many centers in Russia, in Moscow, in Kaluga, in Vladikavkaz, in West Siberia. And the main goal of this program is to develop the economical and business skills, real skills of entrepreneurship. And some of the students, after being graduated from this program, opened their own business.
Organizations and members of our union exist in almost all of the republics of the CIS countries, apart from the Baltic states, and we have gathered about 4.5 million children. This historic event allows us to hope that we will cooperate, and very tight, because children and veterans have much to talk about together. We've got an important motto: one rule at our children's organization. And when we have our meetings with the international community, we often follow this rule, which runs as follows. We have nothing to divide and subtract, but we have something to add and multiply. But words which children hear in a classroom, movies which they watch on the TV, are not enough to raise a real patriot. Life experience is needed, the experience that you have in your organization, living experience, the experience of a living person, the experience of a veteran. Many of our organizations wrote an official letter to Megapir and asked them to be accepted in this organization. I should repeat this request, and it would be very good if I brought them this very good news, if we solve this question today. As in all the republics of the former Soviet Union, the so-called CIS countries, there are numerous veterans organizations in Azerbaijan. There are many of them. Republic Veterans Council unites just a part of such veterans organizations, but all the others have built separate organizations which are not really united and not listed anywhere. Officers are known to be the most well-organized and prepared part of the veteran staff. And establishing of an international advisory council here today is a very useful decision, and we will see the results of our work just in 2 or 3 years. I'm quite sure that our advisory council will unite not only the CIS countries, but also other countries. Our organization in Armenia is doing huge military patriotic work, and in this activity we are determined to use monuments of those who died during the Great Patriotic War, which were built thanks to the funds of inhabitants and other war monuments. We actively participate in this work. Reserve officers of Kyrgyzstan fully support generous ideas and goals of the International Advisory Council of Reserve Officers of the Armed Forces. All of us are grandparents, parents. Happiness of our children should be just all about the peace and peaceful heaven. I regard the International Advisory Council, which has been formed today, as a separate organization, which is not like the other ones, because it has great potential. That is why I would like to express my confidence and wish to the Advisory Council to fulfill all high humanistic intentions, which, above all, are linked to your authority, your experience to help the peoples from other countries to get closer, the countries which are being represented by you today with dignity. So I wish your knowledge and your beliefs about the CIS countries would be conveyed to the younger generation, and all your multiple meetings must be held on a regular basis in various countries. As a result of the meeting, there were approved the main activities of the International Advisory Council for 2011-2012. The final statement of its participants was made, and the appropriate protocol was signed. At the suggestion of the representative of Slovakia, a regular meeting of the International Advisory Board of Reserve Officers is scheduled to take place in Bratislava. The first meeting of the International Advisory Council is a historical event. That's the significant move regarding following uniting of the reserve officers on an international level. All representatives of the former Soviet Union have gathered here today. We will solve mutual veterans' issues together. Just right at this moment we should maintain the people's friendship, which is supposed to be a preventive measure regarding any difficult situations, especially war. Team-oriented officers group of Megapeer Association will encourage further strengthening of relations among the peoples. We, the reserve officers, want peace on Earth. We are on the way to get united, and so that the reserve officers' voice is going to be heard. I think and I hope that our fruitful work will go on. We should just fight for peace altogether. During the event, at the initiative of Megapeer, the foreign guests made a river walk along the Moscow River and had a view at the sights of Moscow and had a chance to communicate in an informal way. Uniting at the international level is on the one hand a great exchange of information and experience, and on the other hand we should get to know each other better. In a few years I believe that most of reserve officers' organizations representing the world today will also join us. At least I believe in it sincerely.